to force his girlfriend into breaking up. This man got 3 of his friends to take turns assaulting her, while he stood by and filmed the whole thing, planning to use the footage as blackmail to keep her from going to the police. Later, when the girl Mary ran into those men again at school, they actually flashed smug grins at her. Her boyfriend Jack just looked at her coldly, treating her like a complete stranger. The humiliation pushed Mary to summon her courage. She went straight to the principal and told him everything, but what she never expected was that the principal, wanting to protect Jack's so-called bright future, actually expelled Mary, the victim, from school. And after that, nobody ever saw Mary again. One day while Jack was driving, his playful girlfriend Lisa reached over and pinched his nose, and right at that moment, a mysterious girl appeared out of nowhere in front of the car. Even though Jack yanked the steering wheel hard, it was too late. The girl was hit and left lying motionless on the road. Lisa was shocked by how cold Jack seemed about it, but she was also terrified they might have actually killed someone, so they drove off hoping for the best. Back at home, Jack noticed Lisa was still shaken up about the accident. He told her flat out there hadn't been a single news report since it happened, which meant the person they hit was probably fine. His reassurance worked, and Lisa finally started to calm down. She put on her headphones and leaned back on the couch to listen to music, but before long, she heard cries for help coming from the darkroom where they developed photos. Lisa immediately pulled off her headphones and headed toward the darkroom. The moment she stepped inside, she heard strange noises from the sink. She quickly leaned in for a closer look and saw something trying to crawl up through the drain. Terrified, Lisa spun around and bolted for the door, but it wouldn't budge no matter how hard she tried. When she turned back around, she was horrified to see a head and 2 hands clawing out of the sink. She pounded on the door, frantically screaming for Jack, but the very next second, she saw Jack pulling the headphones off her head. Turns out Lisa had been lying on the couch the whole time. Everything she just saw was nothing but a nightmare, but Lisa was convinced the dream had something to do with the girl they hit. To put her mind at ease, Jack took her back to the scene of the accident. A street vendor nearby told them there hadn't been any accidents around here recently. Hearing that, Lisa could finally breathe a sigh of relief. When they got home, Jack started developing some photos he'd taken at school, but in one of the photos, that strangely familiar girl appeared again, and even more unbelievable, she actually turned her head and looked right at him. It scared the hell out of Jack. One day while Jack was working, the lights suddenly went out, and his camera flash started going off on its own. What Jack didn't notice was that, with every flash, a ghost appeared behind him, getting closer and closer each time. By the time the ghost was right up against his back, he finally got the circuit breaker fixed, and the lights in the studio flickered back on. But from that moment on, Jack felt a sudden unexplainable ache in his shoulders, and after a night's sleep, the pain didn't go away. It only got worse, so Jack went to the hospital to get checked out. When they weighed him the next day, the nurse looked completely baffled. He didn't look heavy at all, yet the scale read over 220 pounds. He couldn't help but wonder if the hospital scale was broken. Even stranger, every single test came back perfectly normal, but when he got home from the hospital, his old classmate Deo had snuck into his place. The guy looked absolutely frantic, kept asking Jack where he'd hidden the photos, and said the damn woman was back. Jack was completely stunned. He figured Deo was just drunk, and went to call Deo's wife, but the second he turned around, Deo had vanished into thin air. That shook Jack to his core, so he decided to go out and look for him. On the way, he called the other 2 friends, the same ones who'd taken part in the assault, but what Jack didn't know was that one of them had already been found dead at home. Seeing Deo safe and sound at his place, Jack felt some relief at last, but the next second, Deo suddenly went crazy and charged toward the balcony. Jack was absolutely horrified. After learning that both friends were dead, he was completely terrified. He rushed to find Lisa, telling her he was probably the killer's next target, but to his surprise, Lisa pulled out a photo of him and Mary from the car, and demanded to know who the girl was. Turns out Lisa had found the photo tucked inside his photography book. The moment she saw Mary's face, she immediately recognized her not only as the girl in red they'd hit that night, but also as the ghostly figure appearing in the photos. Cornered by Lisa's questions, Jack only admitted that Mary was his college girlfriend. He said nothing about the assault. The truth was Jack had always been a player who used women. The 2 of them got into a heated argument, and in a fit of rage Jack announced he wanted to break up, but what he didn't expect was that to save their relationship, Mary resorted to something extreme. Jack caught her just in time, and tried to stop her from going any further, but in the end he still abandoned her. In Jack's version of the story, he left out the part about having his friends assault Mary. He just said she couldn't handle being dumped, so she dropped out of school, and died of illness at home shortly after. Then he put on an act pretending it was all his fault. His fake remorse didn't push Lisa away. It actually made her feel even more sympathy for him. She even decided to go to the school and pull Mary's records, but when Lisa brought Mary's photo to the principal, the look on his face was clearly uneasy. He told her Mary had been expelled, so her files were long gone. Lisa found that suspicious, but she still managed to track down Mary's home address on her own. Then she and Jack drove out to Mary's house together. That night while they were stopped at a red light, Jack suddenly spotted a woman's body lying in the middle of the road through his rearview mirror. Even creepier, the body slowly sat up, and then came sprinting straight at them. Jack immediately floored the gas pedal, and quickly left the corpse behind. But just when he was about to catch his breath, the corpse had somehow caught up to the car, and was pressed against the window staring right at him. It was enough to make Jack's blood run cold. Thankfully the corpse vanished moments later, but before Jack could even process his relief, the corpse suddenly crawled up onto the hood of the car. He slammed the brakes in sheer panic, and luckily it vanished again. Nothing else strange happened for the rest of the drive. Soon after they checked into a roadside motel. Exhausted from all the driving, Jack headed straight for the bed, ready to crash. Meanwhile Lisa wanted to take a shower before turning in, but once she stepped into the bathroom, Jack heard a familiar voice calling out to him. His eyes snapped open, and there was Mary's ghost sitting right on top of him, her hands pressing down hard on his head, pinning him in place. Jack was absolutely petrified. He tried to fight his way up with sheer willpower, but then the next day Lisa noticed a camera on the shelf flash at her. She checked it, and the film was completely used up. After developing the photos, every single one had a blurry figure in it. She stacked them together and flipped through them quickly, revealing a shadowy figure crawling step by step toward the bookshelf. Lisa went to check, and found an envelope hidden on the very top of the shelf. Inside was a roll of film negatives. The photos documented what those four men had done to Mary years ago. Back then Mary had tried to report it to a teacher, but was completely ignored. The three men mocked her every single day. She went to the principal, only to be expelled instead, as someone from the bottom of society. It was as if she deserved every bit of the humiliation. Even after death Mary never intended to seek revenge. She just wanted to quietly stay by her lover's side. But not only did those men show zero remorse, they even hurled vile insults at her spirit. After learning the whole truth, Lisa finally saw her boyfriend for who he really was. Meanwhile Jack at work saw Mary once again. In the stairwell, Jack spotted Lisa coming toward him. Terrified, he rushed forward and held her tight. But then, Mary's voice came out of Lisa's mouth. The vengeful spirit had come for him. Jack bolted down the stairs again. But no matter which way he went, he couldn't get out. No matter how far he ran, he kept ending up back on the 4th floor. With no other choice, Jack climbed out through a window and scrambled down the fire escape ladder. But Mary was still right on his heels. All Mary ever wanted was to stay by his side. She never meant to hurt him. Jack fell from the building, but miraculously only suffered minor injuries. Lisa threw down the photos and walked away, but Jack blamed everything on Mary. If she hadn't been so clingy back then, none of this would have happened. He pulled out a Polaroid camera trying to force Mary to show herself, but after dozens of shots he got nothing. Furious, he smashed the camera on the ground, and the instant it hit the floor, it snapped one last photo aimed right at him. Jack picked it up and looked. Mary had been sitting on his shoulders the entire time. No matter how hard he struggled, he couldn't shake off Mary's ghost. Then he accidentally fell into the swimming pool. Cut to the next scene. Jack was somehow still alive, but he'd become a vegetable. Mary was still perched on his shoulders. They would be together forever, just as Jack had once promised her, till death and beyond. Lisa exposed the sexual assault and murder in the school auditorium.